Hi everyone, this is Ms. Sarah Bassioni. I'll be with you today. We're working on Unit 3, Lessons 1 and 2. Our topic of the day is festivals and special days. So let's get started. Our learning objectives of the day are we're going to read about spring festivals. We're going to answer questions about a website article. We're going to use the present and past simple passive correctly. And we're going to talk about festivals and special days. Now, I want you to look at 3 pictures and guess what do you think they resemble. Let's look at the one on the left-hand side. We see a crescent and a star, and we see a lot of lanterns. So it could be Ramadan. If we look at the second picture, we'll see the word color marathon, which is basically colored powder that is sprayed all over the people. And this is done while they're having a marathon, which is a running competition. If we look at the third one on the right-hand side, this is a lantern festival. If you've ever heard of it, where people celebrate using lanterns. Let's move on to exercise 2. Match the words with their definitions. So we have the words celebrate, festival, free, special, and represent. So an important day with lots of activities might be a festival. So festival is A. Let's move on to number 3, which is free. What's another word for free? If we're going to get something and then we find out that it's for free, it probably means that it is without having to pay any money. So 3B. Number 4, if something is special, it probably means that it is better or more important than usual. Let's look at number 5, represent, which is basically to be a sign for something. So if something represents something else, it's a sign for it. Represent means to be a sign for something. Now let's move on to the Spring Festival website article, and we're going to check our answers to exercise 1 when we're done. Spring festivals. Spring is celebrated in different ways all over the world. It is very special time of the year. In Egypt, Shem el-Nessim was first held to celebrate the start of spring nearly 4,000 years ago. In Japan, people celebrated when small flowers first appear on thousands of trees across the country. People go outside and have picnics under the trees with their friends and family. In the town of Zenica in Bosnia, people have a festival of eggs in spring. Hundreds of eggs are cooked in a big pan for breakfast, and these are given to all the people of the town for free. In Australia, the start of spring is celebrated in September. In the city of Canberra, there is a month-long flower festival to celebrate spring. You can see about 1 million beautiful flowers in the city's main park. You can also listen to music. Why do so many countries celebrate spring? The flowers and eggs all represent the new life that we can start to enjoy after the winter months have ended. So, I want you to tell me, when do people in Japan start to celebrate spring? When small flowers first appear on cherry trees across the country. So people celebrate the spring when they see the symbol that represents spring, which is basically the cherry trees across the country. Now, question 2. What do they do to celebrate, and who do they do it with? They go outside and have picnics under the trees with their friends and family. Question 3. Do people have to buy breakfast at Bosnia's Festival of Eggs? Why or why not? What do you think? No, because eggs are already cooked and given to all the people in the town for free. So people do not pay for eggs in Bosnia because they are for free. Question 4. What can you see and do at the Flower Festival in Australia? So, what do you see and do at the Flower Festival in Australia? You can see a million beautiful flowers in the city's main park, and you can listen to music. Remember passive verbs? Now, I'd like you to underline passive verbs in these sentences. Spring is celebrated in different ways all over the world. So the first one is done for us. Spring is celebrated. Now, let's move on to number 2. Shem el-Nessim was first held to celebrate the start of spring nearly 4,000 years ago. So which words do you think we're going to underline? We're going to underline was and held because they are in the passive form of the verb. Let's move on to number 3. Hundreds of eggs are cooked in a big pan. Hundreds of eggs are cooked in a big pan. So here we're going to underline are cooked. Let's move on to question 4. In Australia, the start of spring is celebrated in September. So the passive form of the verb here is celebrated. Now, I want you to remember the difference between the active and the passive voice. On the left-hand side, I say the girl cooks food. So we have a subject, which is the girl, and the action that she does, which is cooks. But if we want to jump and change it into a passive verb, we would say the food is cooked by the girl. So the doer of the action comes to the end of the sentence when we use the passive voice. And the object becomes at the beginning of the sentence. The object here is the food, and the doer of the action is the girl. Now, let's move on to the next slide. We're going to look at the grammar box, the present and past simple passive. We use the passive tense when we don't know the subject of a sentence, or when the action is much more important than the subject or person who does it. So we can use by plus a noun to talk about the person or thing that does the action. The form of the present simple passive is am, is, and are, plus not, and the past participle. So we might say, in Bosnia, the people cook eggs in a big pan. This is an active voice. It is the normal kind of sentence. It has a subject that does the action and the verb itself. But if we want to change it into passive form, we will say, in Bosnia, eggs are cooked in a big pan. So we start with the object, not the subject. We don't start with the doer. We start with the receiver of the action, which is eggs. Now, let's look at the form of the past simple passive, which is was and were plus not and the past participle. I didn't send the email. This is the active voice. But if I want to jump and change it into passive voice, I will probably use the word email in the beginning. So I would say, the email wasn't sent. Now, to make yes or no questions, the form is am, is, are, was, were, plus noun, or pronoun plus the past participle. So we might ask a question like this. Are special foods eaten at the festival? Yes, they are. The toy is fantastic. Was it made in Egypt? Yes, it was. Now, you see the difference between the first example and the second example. When we're asking to make yes or no questions, the form is am, is, are, was, were, and the noun plus, or even the pronoun plus the past participle. Let's move on to question words. Question words come before the verb be, which is am, is, are, was, were. Why is fish sometimes kept in special freezers? How was fish cooked in the past? Those are examples of question words that come before the verb be. Now, I'd like you to make questions and answer them in the present or past simple passive. The first one is done for us. Who first pizza invented by? So we might say, who was the first pizza invented by? And we would say the first pizza was invented by an Italian. Now let's move on to number 2, where Shem el-Nessim celebrate today. Let's turn it into an actual question. We might say, where is Shem el-Nessim celebrated today? And then we would say, it is celebrated all over the country. Now, question 3. What papyrus first used for long ago? What was papyrus first used for long ago? It was used for paper by the ancient Egyptians. What often give to children at New Year today? We might say, what is often given to children at New Year today? We might say, sweets are given to children. Then we have turned it into the passive form of the verb. Now let's ask and answer questions. What special days are celebrated by your family? I'd like you to think about the days that you celebrate with your family. Do you celebrate birthdays, or do you celebrate the feast, or do you celebrate summer vacation? What kind of special days do you enjoy? And are there any festivals that are celebrated in your city or village or even school? In our family, Mother's Day is always celebrated. So in other families, maybe Father's Day would be celebrated, or special occasions such as when somebody passes an exam. So today, we have completed the following. We have read about spring festivals, answered questions about a website article, used the present and past simple, passive correctly, and we talked about festivals and special days. Thank you guys. You did a great job today. I'll see you soon. This was Ms. Sara Bassioni. Have a great day.